A Century of Dance in Greece. The pursuits, influences and experimentations from Isadora Duncan, Eva Palmer, Kola Pratsica, and the Delphic festivals to modern times. In 1982, the International Dance Committee, part of UNESCO's International Theatre Institute, decided to establish the April 29th as the International Dance Day. This date has a symbolic meaning, since it coincides with the birthday of Jean-Georges Noverre, dancer and dance teacher, who, during the 18th century, laid the ground for modern theatrical dance. Each year, an important dance personality delivers the message of the day. In Greece, theatrical dance arrived in the beginning of the 20th century. Its presence to date has displayed interesting elements, as well as contradictions and periods of inactivity. A few details about its history in Greece may be useful in order to escape the ideological models that have marked it. Modern or contemporary dance arrived in Greece in the second decade of the 20th century. It was a time of political unrest, preceded by the National Great Division and the Asia Minor catastrophe of 1922, with no existing infrastructure or preparation to receive it, apart from the distant memory of Isadora Duncan's visits. Theatrical dance became the ideological tool of an urban minority with nationalistic views, a fact that marked its course. For people in the dance field, the combination of folk tradition and ancient Greek heritage was a discovery of decisive importance, and, under these circumstances, modern dance developed in Greece. The 1920s were stained with loss, defeat, and political unrest. It was during this time when the poet Angelos Cyclianos turned to the realization of what would be named the Delphic idea. The Delphic idea was the rebirth of the ancient Amphictyonies, religious and political leagues whose purpose was the consolidation of trade and peace agreements. Cyclianos' utopic vision was supported by his American wife, Eva Palmer. The Cyclianos organized the Delphic festivals 2 times in 1927 and in 1930. The first one was the most important for dance, and the people that had leading parts in shaping the art in the following years then appeared in the limelight for the first time. In 1927, in Prometheus Bound, Eva Palmer, with the assistance and under the guidance of Konstantin Sachos, choreographed and versified the choral interludes, prepared the costumes, and became a great influence on Kola Pratsica, who proved to be her most faithful student. Eva Palmer and Kola Pratsica were no exception to being overly dependent on an important element of that time, the pursuit of the Greek identity. It could be argued that modern dance in Greece is the result of the influence of 2 early 20th century major poles in the art of dance, Germany and the United States. The influence of Germany in Greece was more focused on education, while from the United States, it was the early, abandoned vision of Isadora Duncan for a dance art influenced by ancient Greece. These 2 directions determined the choreographic production in the country for a long time. The revival and reinterpretation of the vision of Duncan's first creative period was realized with Eva Palmer's active contribution. Duncan's ideas about the choral parts of ancient drama and their singing parts, which she based on Byzantine music, took on new form and duration in the work of her young, fellow American, Eva. On the other hand, on a journey of rediscovering Greece, Pratsica became intoxicated by Greece and decided to bestow the spirit of Philhellenism she had encountered during the years of her studies in Germany on her country, as well. She founded her school in 1934, a professional school that she bequeathed to the Greek state in 1973-74, and it was renamed KSOT. She choreographed various festivals at ancient Greek theaters from 1937 to 1940, and was the proud high priestess at the 1936 Olympic flame-lighting ceremony, held for the first time in the modern history of the Olympic Games in ancient Olympia. The flame then traveled to Berlin. The search for a Greek identity, along with education and the discipline of the body, was incorporated singularly into the political and social reality of the interwar period. Dance, in most European countries, sided temporarily with dictatorial regimes. In later years gradually, the pioneers of modern dance turned to the realization of their vision of a Greek identity through their work. A few of Kola Pratsica's students, such as Rala Manu, followed their own creative path, while others, such as Maria Orr and Zuzu Nicoludi, who named the dance company she founded in the 1960s Chorika, meaning choral parts, followed in Palmer's footsteps by experimenting with ancient drama and bridging the gap that had been created after she left Greece, and later, after her death. She persisted in giving tremendous importance to the educational part of her work. Even when the younger generations later turned to Martha Graham, Jerome Robbins and Anthony Tudor in the 1940s and 1950s, one would say that this was because the Grecocentrism of the American choreographers' themes alone gave some sort of legitimacy to the continuity of contemporary artists' Philhellenic spirit, the latter an important but often latent element of the upper bourgeois class. Dance and theater. The form that fulfilled the ideal of dance theater in Greece was the one which included all three elements of the ideal condition of this kind according to Platonic standards: speech, music and movement, not in deconstruction, nor in support of challenging the ideologies of the time, but as a theater-related representation. Until the late 1970s, choreographic production in Greece was undertaken by the students of Schola Pratsika, who continued the research and expressed a view according to which dance is a structural part of ancient drama. The form of this dance theater, with the symbolic interpolation of speech and music, continued and continues influencing choreographic production up to this day, although with declining frequency. Greek choreographers' access to more information, to travel, and to higher education have assisted in a change of course and in the adaptation of the initial idea of combining dance with speech and music in their deconstructive, non-realistic, or rational use and blending, according to the example of the German Tanztheater and, specifically, that of Pina Bausch. The American influence. It could be said that the various artistic movements have always been transferred to Greece with some delay. The same applies to the ideas of Isadora Duncan, to the expressionist dance of Mary Wigman, and to the American choreographer, Martha Graham. The latter, adopting a thematic cycle of Greek myths, offered a new outlet in the pursuit and expression of Greek identity, which continued to preoccupy the ideological descendants of Schola Pratsika in post-war Greece. Rala Manu, without interrupting her search for inspiration in ancient Greece, mainly focused her attention on the other dimension of Eva Palmer's vision, which was folk art and tradition. Also, unintentionally or intentionally, a novelty was introduced. She liberated the dance from ancient drama, which made her the first person in Greece to claim the title of choreographer in accordance to European and American standards. With Rala Manu, dance, no matter the nature of her work's critical appraisal, becomes an independent art. Experimentation renewal. The greater allowances of Greek society, its disengagement from political matters after the Metapolitefsi, the regime change of 1974, the emphasis on a better dance education, and state support acted as liberating factors to those who, in the early 1990s, restored the art of dance to the limelight. The choreographers of this generation exposed the body to techniques, music or sound accompaniments, styles and thematic challenges that have no common elements with modern dance in Greece, even though such elements reappeared, though with decreasing frequency, as proposals mutations of the traditional views about dance. All in all, the small and larger disagreements and the desire for communication with movements and ideas make the future of dance, despite any problems, look hopeful. My comments in support of my texts. This text, based on the script of the documentary on contemporary dance in Greece, was a huge success in the sense that sacrilegious ideas found their way to a mainstream, educated audience, many amongst it art lovers or part of audiences of dance performances. The text also widened the gap between the writer and the dance scene, which felt threatened by such ideas shown on a large scale. This schism that the article and the documentary provoked may show hierarchies and attitudes within the dance community. Integrative and free-spirited community on the one level, but with great influence exercised by its most conservative members and members of syndicalist groups who perceived of iconoclastic research as a danger to the stability and continuity of the community as such. So, one aspect of my work managed to show an unflattering side of the intra-community relations, the power relations and class struggle within, the clash of power between female participants who were also of greater number within the dance world, gay and straight male members. It also showed ways in which each group acts and reacts to pressure and rearrangement of the balance of power and hierarchy. Furthermore, it may be taken as a starting point for reflection upon other agents that shape attitudes, for example funding, success, audience, reviews, syndicalism etc. C1 may also study behavior on an institutional level, for example the Ministry of Culture, with politicians anxious to maintain a favorable profile, interfering with the dance community, but also parameters that are usually kept silent or go unnoticed, for example the power struggle, the complaining, the imbalances in the distribution of wealth etc. The media also play an important role as they react to signs of stress of a community and may even silence the critic who seems to be pushing things too far. Therefore a personal attack may be of great interest in unveiling a world of power that people are unaware of and even transcribe this world within a wider frame of experience. From the direct experience to the wider one, like deductive reasoning. Furthermore, this text along with the documentary on contemporary dance in Greece, created a precedent that, despite all efforts, could not be buried and forgotten. The text, the research and the participants in the research documentary were there. The film was shown multiple times on TV and is at the New York Public Library. Furthermore, I could show it in my class of dance history or talk about it in issues that it was concerned with to be presented and discussed and create a whole generation of artists who have heard and seen a different approach to the history of modern dance in Greece, which was made as their history. Therefore this text and the documentary it was based on, opened up and proposed a dialogue in regard to the perception of history, their history, their histories, and a different way of dealing with criticism. Criticism must criticize all and leave nothing unsearched. It is a revolutionary act, an act of destruction in the futurist manner. It is like a walk in the cellar or in the attic. After things are rearranged and neatly put, it is always better and of greater value. For example, if I say that Raila Manu's choreographic work is worthless sold as high art, but her contribution lies elsewhere, in that she led the profession of the choreographer to its independence from ancient drama and theater. She is not the Greek Martha Graham and her work is limited, but her talent as agent, in administration, in setting up schools etc. is real and uncontested and by no means insignificant.